The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's see what we got here. We got manga and comics at Barnes & Noble. We've talked about this, at length before, of just one of the indicators of the pop culture attraction of comics is you can go to a large kind of brick and mortar bookseller like a Barnes & Noble, and you can also look on Amazon in the top list. And you can just kind of see the heartbeat of what's going on with manga versus US comics, or even different genres of manga. I mean, one of the things we probably should talk about a lot more, because the comparison people often make is manga versus US comics. But what about kind of, manga versus, horror versus manga slice of life versus BL versus fantasy versus more traditional versus, there's just a lot of different subcategories of manga. And it's actually kind of interesting to study those. So we should do that. But let's read this mail first. So, good afternoon, Mr. Marvel and DC apologist Perch. Thank you. I still look, there's lots of critique people give my channel at various times. And to me, the absolutely most asinine or weird one, the one I can't wrap my head around, is certainly everything Mumbles does. No, I'm kidding. That's just basic trolling, not particularly elegant. The ones that confuse me are the people who go into Perch is a big two apologist. And I don't know how you could listen to this channel and what is, for me, I often think I'm being far too negative about comics. I need to actually be more positive. And several of you write in mail saying that too. I don't know how you walk away from this channel thinking Perch is a shill for Marvel. Like that is bizarre feedback. Like, you could argue with me lots of things. Several of you disagree with, my correct take on, ESGs and other types of investments. But that's fine. You can hardly argue with that because I'm saying something you can disagree with. But Marvel apologist, I crap on that company constantly. That's just weird to me. I don't unless we're taking a very extreme example, and I've seen some other YouTubers do this where they try and kind of guilt or pressure people into saying, we're never going to read another Marvel comic. I mean, I will read more Marvel comics in the future. I'm sure I will. I'm not going to go and throw away my X-Men collection. I'm not going to do that either. Is that an apologist for the big two? That's a weird flex. But okay. Anyway, I've gone too far. It's not what the letter writer is saying. It said, I went to my local Barnes & Noble store yesterday to make my monthly comic purchases, and I was surprised to notice that Barnes & Noble had removed all the shelves dedicated to American graphic novels and replaced that shelf space with more manga. After 15 minutes of searching, I did find that Barnes & Noble does still sell American comics, graphic novel, trade paperback. They've been downsized to 3 very small shelves, only about 3 feet tall, next to the magazine section. Okay, so a couple people posted photos of this. This is happening at Barnes & Noble. What's a little bit eerie is, Barnes & Noble stores do have somewhat the ability to do their store the way they want. It's not all, it's not completely corporate driven. There's, you can have some regional differences, but there are corporate guidelines and recommendations that get made to that shop. But the slightly odd or ominous thing is that several of the shops that have had this experience, basically, in the past, you'd have like the manga section, the American graphic novel section, really close together, often in the same shelves. There are definitely more manga, less American comics, but they were in that same area. And some of the newer stores are now doing what this letter writer is describing. They're making the shelf space much smaller, and now it's at the end of the magazine section. So you have this kind of rapidly shrinking area of magazines, and at the end of it, you have a small shelf or a couple shelves with the graphic novels, the U.S. graphic novels, and manga remains in its own little location. That's a bad sign. I mean, it's not good. It's ominous in that this is happening in the newer stores, which, I'm guessing. So this is not a fact, but it is a guess. And I think it's a guess based on logic, that this is somewhat the recommendation. It's coming down from corporate about how to do things, which is distressing. We'll just put it that way. Anyway, back to the mail. My question is this. As a huge manga buying reader and enthusiast, it appears that the weekly and monthly volume of new manga trade paperbacks is becoming so saturated with the increasing volume of new titles that my local Barnes & Noble is no longer carrying all of the new releases, even for new manga volumes released. This is a very important point. So, we go through this. This has even reached titles related to or released by Viz and Kodansha. Kodansha, sorry. That didn't sound right in my head when I said Kodansha, sorry. The big two North American publishers. I prefer to support my local Barnes & Noble store, but I am having to purchase a bunch of manga trade paperbacks online tonight as Barnes & Noble is no longer carrying the new volumes. This included titles published that I made a conscious effort to buy the last of the prior series volume released during the first month of release, same Barnes & Noble store show support. Cool. Our manga readers, such as myself, in danger of another manga crash similar to Tokyopop right before the 2008 GFC. For those of you who don't remember, there was a big boom. A lot of new titles came in, and what happened, and I do think is happening again, is the shelf space got clogged with so many different things, and the top sellers sold, but a lot of the back stock remained, that basically the manga, the booksellers, this time Borders, places like that, dropped, they dramatically cut their manga orders because they had too much. It had backed up. They didn't have returnability. And so there was no way to get rid of it. So they were being like choked out of their own store. And so you saw this whiplash effect, and it did lead to a pretty significant manga crash. I do suspect we're headed there again. And we'll get into why now. I remember then that Kodansha stopped licensing titles to Tokyopop. There was way too many crap manga titles being released in the US by Tokyopop at the time. The volume exceeded the manga customer demand. And to be honest, there are so many manga series being released right now, it is very easy to miss certain titles on the shelf that I'm interested in as they sort of become small trees being lost in the vast forest, so to speak. Okay, so a lot of people came to this video to clown on the American market shrinking, and that is embarrassing and bad. Agreed. Definitely, this is where I'm an apologist, apparently. That is bad. Bad sign. Another ominous sign, something to worry about is, a lot of the manga books on the shelves are not actually selling. So when we say that manga is kicking, the U.S. comics ass, that's true at a high level, but the truth of the matter is the hits, the manga hit titles are kicking the American comic market's ass. And maybe a more accurate way to say it is like Demon Slayer is beating the shit out of Spider-Man, or Chainsaw Man is doing infinitely better than Batman, or One Punch Man is doing better than Captain Marvel. That's really kind of what's going on. There's a lot of manga that's not selling, and what happens here is not a mystery. Manga starts to take off. Publishers immediately just start dumping stuff into the market in the hopes of catching the next, Chainsaw Man or My Hero Academia or whatever it is. And so, they start taking chances on a lot of different things. We saw the same thing happen with the YA market. And so you're getting all these books entering the market, but those books aren't selling. So they're on the shelf, sitting there, and they stay there. So as an experiment for yourself, just to kind of be educated about what's going on, go to your manga shelf at your local Barnes & Noble. Go and look at kind of some of the books that are there, and then come back like a month later and notice what hasn't moved at all. There's a ton of titles on that shelf that are still going to be there. They're not being sold. They are in effect, they are the Captain Marvels. Maybe that's an unfair comparison. They are the Savage Dragons of the manga world. They're coming out, but nobody's buying them. And let's throw some shade at Eric Larson. Why not? Why not, dude? Come at me with that big giant forehead you got, man. No, I'm kidding. But that's what's happening is these titles are sitting there. So over time, more and more books are coming in. The shelf space isn't, the stuff's not coming off of it. And so, they got to do something with these books. And they're not sure what to do with them. So it's just slowly but surely the shelf space is crowding out. I was at a Barnes & Noble, and they got some new copies or replenishment copies of Demon Slayer. and they just wheeled out a cart and then just left the cart sitting by the manga section, just left the books in boxes just there, because they knew it would go so quickly that the books would be sold within a day. And so it wasn't worth putting them on the shelf and making room for all the stuff that's just still there. Now, the inevitable result of this is you're going to see a giant retraction from a bunch of manga publishers. And this is going to, manga will get a stigma, just like people are generalizing manga's beating everything. You're going to get the same stigma of, well, manga isn't selling. Now, again, the reality is the top manga are still going to continue to sell just fine. But you are going to get that moment. And there's a high likelihood that this will be another, or at least defined as another, manga crash. And so you'll be able to see the industry kind of, reset itself. The danger to manga is that a bunch of booksellers are going to, see this and go, I should pull back on all my orders, including even the ones that sell, which will increase the scarcity. It's going to set up an unhealthy result. Hopefully the market can be corrected. I mean, what would be really great is if, Barnes & Noble and some of these big box stores can find a method to get some of these books off the shelves. But the other thing that's going on is because manga is selling so well, and it's done a great job of breaking into places outside of Barnes & Noble, like Target and others, what happens is Target will undercut the price of the manga. So Barnes & Noble may sell it for, $12. Target sells it for $6. And so those are the anchor sellers, because Target is not buying 500 different manga books. They're buying the top 10 and they're throwing it in their stores. So what in fact happens is they're able to undercut the price. And on top of that, then everybody goes, the bookstore no longer has the top sellers to kind of, boost up the rest of the library. So they wind up pulling back. I highly believe that Barnes & Noble is going to pull back hard on manga. And, you're going to see a bunch of the bookstores, and you're going to see the top books, continue to sell just fine at, at Target and places like that. But all this is going to just lead to an interesting retraction, and we'll see. Now, unfortunately, I talked to somebody who goes, I can't wait for that manga crash so we can get the spotlight back on the U.S. comics. Yeah, that's a correlation that probably not going to happen. I mean, as embarrassing and frustrating it is for, U.S. comics to get their ass handed to them by manga, it's also super unhealthy if manga drops. It's not like, the booksellers are going to turn around and put more money into U.S. comics. They're going to reduce orders across the board. So that tiny little shelf next to the magazines is going to get even smaller. So I don't know. We'll see. That's my prediction. What do you think? What happens with all this? And what are you seeing in your local stores? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for listening.